What does gutsy mean to you, my friend?
Gutsy means being a trailblazer. Gutsy means doing the thing in spite of the naysayers, in spite of the fact that you haven't done it before, in spite of the fact that nobody who looks like you has done it before, but in your way, in your aligned way.
Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast, the show where you learn how to own what you actually want and shift the mind junk that's been holding you back. I'm Laura Ora, keynote speaker, coach, and your guide to help you get clarity, build confidence, and make the gutsy moves that change your life. Each week, I'm going to help you simplify things by teaching you how to get out of your head while stepping into action. This way you can achieve all those life shifts that you've been overthinking. Your desire, that drives you. But gutsy, that's what gets it done. If you've ever felt like you're about to be found out, like you're not really qualified, or like everything you've worked for could slip away if someone looked a little too closely, then this episode is going to land deep. I'm joined by Tanya Geisler, a leadership coach and expert on Imposter Complex, and let me tell you, she breaks it all the way down. We get into what Imposter Complex actually is, and it's not just self-doubt, by the way, the 12 lies it tells you and why it targets high-achieving women like you with big hearts and bold visions. We also talk about how to shift from proving to being, the role of visibility plays in our fears, and why rituals, clarity, and capacity are the keys to reclaiming your voice and power. This one's layered, and it's freeing. Tanya is a certified leadership coach, international TEDx women speaker, and writer who helps leaders overcome imposter complex and step into their iconic impact. After a successful career in advertising, she became a leadership coach in 2007 and has since worked with thousands of executives, founders, and changemakers across industries, from tech to finance to fashion and politics, helping them lead with clarity, confidence, and purpose. This is probably going to be one of those episodes where you listen to it once the whole way through, and then you come back and you take even deeper notes. So let's get into it. Hello, Tanya. Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Hello, Laura. So glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm stoked. You've got big energy, and I'm here for this. So let's first define what we're about to talk about, because I feel like this can go a lot of different ways. Imposter syndrome, imposter complex. Is there a difference between the two? Let's just kind of set the stage before we dig into this.
So, back in 1978, let's start with a little bit of history. Um, what we're really talking about is what was called imposter phenomenon. So, there were these two clinical psychologists, Pauline Clance, Suzanne Imes, and they were working with high achieving, high functioning women at Oberlin College. And they noticed this through line. No matter how capable and successful and smart these women were, they seemed to be incapable of internalizing their success. Any success they had, they'd be like, I just got lucky. They're just being nice. They would chalk it up to external factors, luck, fluke, timing, or having somehow managed to convince people they're smarter, more capable than they actually were. They were more than able to internalize their failures. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really what they were talking about, looking at. And over the last couple of decades, it became known as imposter syndrome, made quite popular by, Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. Valerie Young wrote a seminal book, Secret Thoughts of Successful Women. So imposter syndrome became really part of the zeitgeist. I came along and I won't tell you when I was born. Well, actually, I can. 72.
Hell yeah.
I'm totally fine. I'm very
Own that
proud of
shit.
53.
Own that
Own that
shit.
shit. When I started doing the exploration of what this experience was, because I had it named for me, go figure, I was thinking about how the way syndrome just wasn't hitting it. Syndrome struck me as a way to pathologize, a way to mm, I don't know. It just felt like we were co-opting a medical term. And so the more I dug into it, the more I realized that really was sitting quite uncomfortably with me. And I had heard somebody else use imposter complex. I can't actually remember who or what or where, but it became really important to me to make that distinction. I don't think we're talking about a syndrome because that's a clinical diagnosis. We're really talking about a complex set of circumstances, situations, behaviors, which is more appropriate now. That doesn't, I mean, it's just semantics, right? And seriously, it's kind of screwed with my SEO because people are searching for imposter syndrome. And I'm like, no, it's imposter complex. And that's not what they're looking for. So we've done a lot of SEO work to make sure that the two are synonymous. But more than anything, I have a lot of people who have found imposter syndrome to be rather ableist and are really grateful for the care that I've taken to have it mean something different or have it be something different. So they are the same. In fact, imposter phenomenon again is what the original term was. So there it is. That's why I say complex. And also, I love a good wordplay, as you will discover. And I think like having imposter complex reminds us that this shit is complex. It's just complex. So I think it's a good reminder as well.
Yeah. What's been your relationship with imposter complex? Like, how has this shown up in your life?
Every single time I'm at the edge of my expansion, right?
Mm.
Who do you think you are? Why would you want to rock the boat? It's just a matter of time before they find out that you're not as capable, skilled, or brilliant as you think you are, or they think you are. So it's a road bump, right? It just slows me up, slows me down. So I there's a great quote by Bishop T.D. Jakes. Many, I would say, but one in particular, your ministry is where your misery has been. And so when somebody named for me that I mean, it was actually the person named it for me in the context of taking a coaching program concept to a producer to have a TV show produced, and I was in it. And this person was like, "You've got imposter syndrome. That's exactly what's going on." And I was like, "Oh, that's got to be it." So I got really curious about it. And then in 2012, I was invited to do a TEDx talk. And that's not what you asked, but this is what you're getting.
I told you we are going to go
We're
wherever
gonna
we're
go.
supposed to go today.
The theme of the TEDx Women that year was the space in between what is real and what is imagined. And so as a coach, I'd been a coach for at that point about 5 or 6 years, and I kept seeing this. I thought maybe I'd talk about inner critics, because that felt too big for 18 or 20 minutes. Yeah. So I thought, what's the through line that I'm constantly helping my folks with? And I recognized, just like with Clance and Imes, that these brilliant women that I was working with kept ribboning through this, I'm not ready yet. It's just a matter of time. Um, and then this sort of all or nothing thinking. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess if I'm going to triple down on something to understand, I guess it's going to be this. And so I did. And that was back in 2012. And I've done a lot of work on it, with it. My thinking on it has changed significantly, as it should. As I've evolved, I've started to understand, I mean, a lot, so much about it from intersectional lenses. I actually call it something different now, which my SEO people are really not happy about. Um, but which door you want to go through now?
Yeah, I mean, what is this through line is this like hesitation, and especially like you were sharing with your story
Mm,
of like right when you're about to go to the next level, you're about
yeah,
to take off, you're about to grow or expand or do
yeah.
something new. What have you found that it is about women specifically that causes this hesitation at those growth points?
Okay, such a great question. So there are three things that it's trying to do. This experience is trying to do. It's trying to keep you out of action, doubting your capacity, and alone and isolated. Okay. So the imposter complex in and of itself, it's like one thing that we navigate. But the other thing that we are really trying to navigate, and if you do any coaching, it's actually there's this experience and just saying, hey, that's imposter syndrome, that's imposter complex, like naming it, that's sort of like, oh, that's sort of like sometimes it dials it down, sometimes it dials it up, the agita that you're feeling. But generally, we try to cope with it through 6 really specific behavioral mechanisms.
Hmm.
So listen for yours. Perfectionism, hi, procrastination, people pleasing, leaky boundaries, diminishment, comparison. So those are the 6 ways that we will try to avoid this experience. I'm going to use my people pleasing to make sure that I belong. right? I want to make sure because I suspect that I don't, because I suspect that I'm the imposter. So I'm going to use my charm and my likability to make sure that everybody is happy that I'm here and that I belong. But the double bind is that once I get invited to do something, I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that they just like me because I'm likable, not because I'm deeply skilled and talented and excellent at what I do. And so all of these have the same corollary effect, right? My perfectionism, I don't want anybody to find out that I'm not supposed to be here, so I'm going to make sure that my work is above reproach and nobody can like nobody can tell me any differently. Then I look around and realize nobody else has to work this hard. Clearly, I'm the imposter. So all of these behavioral mechanisms, they're actually double binds. We go to them to avoid feeling like the imposter, but then in so doing, we actually feel more like the imposter. So back to your question, we can do this. Many of these are conditioned behaviors. Yeah.
Hmm.
So Joe Casey is a former client of mine. She calls this feminine conditioning, right? And so we can see the people pleasing, the leaky boundaries, the diminishment in so many of those good girl narratives. Good girls don't know how to take up space. Good girls make other people feel comfortable. So all of that good girl framing tends to collude with this experience. The other thing about the imposter complex is it shows up, to your point, on the precipice of your expansion, on the precipice of doing something that you haven't done before. It also shows up in spaces where there aren't a lot of people who look like you. So, you know, what, 45 years ago, there weren't a ton of women in leadership. We don't have a real, or the leadership that we understand, matriarchal leadership, very different thing. That could be for another time. But, in sort of recentish history, we don't have a lot of data points for that. And so I also think that it's important to pause here and say, my work with imposter complex is informed by my lived experience as a white, neurotypical, able-bodied woman of middle class means living in North America. That might not be everybody's experience. So I don't want to speak for other people. And what I understand to be true is if you are, for every concentric circle, we are othered from the center of the universe. Shall we call him Greg? Um, my
I love it.
husband, the white neurotypical dude living in North America, right? Like if for every concentric circle, you're distance from him, you're going to have an exacerbated feeling of this experience, right? Because the world wasn't set up for you necessarily. So for every intersection of, race and class and gender and so on and so forth, you're going to have this exacerbated feeling. Unless, of course, the world has been designed for you, in which case Greg's going to feel it. So I think that's also important to note. So yes, we talk about it largely in the context of imposter complex and women. And, depending on the context, other people will experience it as well. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that you shared those six things. I think everyone can identify with at least one. I'm going to
Yeah.
go out on a limb and say maybe a handful. I will say that mine is procrastination.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I can put some shit off until the 11th hour and then somehow I just become magical in the 11th hour and get things done. I don't love it, but I do recognize that I operate that way. Sometimes it serves me really well, but I can notice and identify when I'm at that cusp, right? When I'm like edging up against something. Oh, I can find 40 other things to do. And I put myself in the situation where, it becomes an issue and then I got to figure shit out.
All right, dear listener, you heard it here first. You just said magically, right? Magically it comes together. How does it come together? Actually, because you're deeply skilled, brilliant at what you do.
Yeah,
Okay. So there's like a 1-2 punch of procrastination. You might have a little bit of tiny bit of diminishment going on as well. Love you. But
sure.
yes, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Actually, Suzanne Clance, no, Suzanne, I'm sorry, Pauline Clance, pardon me, did talk a fair bit about procrastination and the imposter complex, connection. Uh, on the one hand, it's a way in which we don't want, if we've got this presentation or whatever it is that we're doing, and we don't want to find out that we're not supposed to be doing it, or that we don't belong, or that we're not actually that capable, or whatever. So we might put it off. Now, one of a couple of things might happen. One, you're going to knock it out of the park because you're deeply skilled and brilliant at what you do. Hi, Laura. Yeah.
Hello.
Um, or, all of that Netflix that you binged and the sleepless nights and the anxiety actually do catch up with you. And then you get to prove to yourself that you actually weren't capable because you actually deliver something that is not so great. So either way, now in your case, it's sort of like, okay, well, this is just the way I do things. And that, if that works for you, then that works for you. I'm deeply not interested in fixing what ain't broke. But for those who struggle with this and they feel like, I just know that there's a more linear path for me, get curious about it. But if it works for you, it works for you. If the costs outweigh it, fantastic. I think one of the other things that we do, and again, you can probably sense it in the way that I'm a little vigilant about imposter complex versus syndrome. I'm not interested in pathologizing that which doesn't need to be pathologized. I also think that your procrastination is actually clues to another part of you that's really important. And I think we can spend a lot of times gaslighting ourselves. We can spend a lot of time gaslighting ourselves. Um, and the self-development industry is a $44 billion industry. It's a lot of money. Um, really, really, really devoted to making sure people feel like shit about themselves.
Hmm.
So, right, like I procrastinate as a weighty, sort of like heavy kind of thing. And that's not actually the energy, but we feel it, right? I'm a people pleaser. Just stop being a people pleaser. Just stop, right? Don't compare and despair. Do this instead. But ultimately, inside of those six behavioral traits, there's a golden shadow. There's an aspect to our leadership edge that's, I think, really important that we don't dismiss. So for procrastination, there's a value of discernment, right? Yes, it gets in the way. Yes, it can be a challenge. And when you do a thing, I'm going to trust that you've done that thing with a lot of discernment, with a lot of nuance, with a lot of care that is missing in this world of ours where it's just like on to the next, right? Do it fast, do it furious. So we need people that hold discernment as a very strong value. For me, as a people pleaser, guess what I value? Inclusivity. I want to make sure that people feel held, supported, appreciated, seen. That's important to me. So, in each one of those, comparison, it just means that you value connection. Perfectionism means you value excellence. Leaky boundaries means you're generous. Even if you have a value, if you tend to diminish, you have a value of humility. So these are beautiful things, and I actually think they're really important leadership traits. In fact, no one would argue with me that these are deeply important leadership traits. So what are we trying, like, why are we trying to eradicate this from our experience? But when the procrastination or the people pleasing or these behaviors try to keep you out of action, doubting your capacity and alone and isolated, that's when we got to talk.
Well, that's so that I've never, by the way, heard anybody talk about the value side of these traits. So I think that this is beautiful and brilliant. I think the question then to the listeners, someone is thinking, okay, well, how do I didn't realize that there's that great trait of myself in there. How do I don't love the word balance because for many reasons, but like, how do you utilize both sides? How do you recognize it? How do you use it to the strength versus allowing it to go beyond to the point where now it's stopping you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, take my quiz. That's thing one, because I do have a quiz that does help you discern. It goes one step further, and so for you as somebody who tends to procrastinate, it points to your value of discernment, which in my lexicon I call that your iconic identity is that of the sage. And again, the sage, so like you be the sage. So that means that you have a sage pace to things. And again, we come to you for the thought out good decision. We need the sages. For me, I'm the host. So that means that when I'm thinking about, and this actually just came yesterday, this happened to me yesterday. I'm working on a coaching program for speakers, we did a pilot of it. It was wildly successful. Well, it was great. It was a good time. And so we're looking at the design and things that I want to, zhuzh up a little bit or do a little bit differently. And I got to the part where I was looking at, oh, got to do like co-working sessions. I don't normally do project-based programs. I tend to do like longer form coaching programs that really help you navigate imposter complex from soup to nuts. But recently I've noticed I've been doing a lot of speaking and a lot of people are saying like, how are you getting these gigs? How's it coming together? So I've put together this program. Anyway, there are certain aspects of the program that I will not mess with, but I kept looking at these co-working calls and I was like, oh, they're such a drag, I know they're important. I know like doing things in community is great. I know that the energy can be really great, but for me, they weren't really exciting. I was like, oh, I know why. It's gotta be a party because I'm a host. So now we got playlists. Now we got goodie bags. Now we got, right? Like it just changes the energy for me when I tap back into my iconic identity. And each one of those has that quality. So where to dial up and then where to dial back. And there's again, at the risk of I don't want to gatekeep in any way, shape, or form, ask me anything, but each one of those behavioral traits does have something to pay attention to, and not just the procrastination. But the procrastination tells me, trying to figure out if I want to go through this door or not. I talk a lot about iconic confidence, and that's the kind of confidence that won't quit you. And it comes down to integrity, presence, and taking action. And so, not surprisingly, the procrastination becomes how are we taking action? Is there a willingness to fail? Is there tenacity? Is there resilience? And so that's your area to pay attention to. For me, with my people pleasing, that tells me that I got an integrity question mark sometimes. I might not always show up authentically, or I might show up super authentically, and that can be its own challenge. But sometimes I might be honoring my word to others more than I'm honoring myself. That's an integrity crisis. So that's kind of where I'd have you look more so than the behavior itself. And also leaky boundaries is also an integrity question mark. Comparison and diminishment is a presence question mark. Are you rooting into your power? Are you asking for and receiving support? So, and if you do the quiz, that's going to help you pay attention to those places that are a little more aligned steps to take. Does that track?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that this conversation gives people something deeper to think about versus like, I have imposter syndrome, period, or I am a people pleaser, period, or
Yeah. Oh,
I tend to procrastinate. And I caught you catching yourself where you were about to say you are a procrastinator, but there was a pause and it was you tend to procrastinate. And it's like,
good catch.
And I think that that's really important because when we self-identify as these things, they become part of our identity. We walk around as if we are this thing where really it's a trait, it's a behavior, it's a habit.
It's a habit, and again, it comes from conditioning, right? It's embedded in ourselves long before we had a choice in the matter. And I think too, the identity piece is actually really important, and how you're seeing yourself, how you're talking about yourself. So even this idea, if you think about yourself not as a procrastinator but as a sage, oh you, that has me sitting up a little bit differently.
Sure.
If you're a perfectionist, the iconic identity is that of the CEO. Now, we have some feelings about CEOs these days, but ultimately, we're thinking about the optimal, the archetypical, beautiful version of a CEO who knows that mistakes are actually a huge part, imperfections are a huge part of innovation, right? That there's always room for 2.0, that you just have to ship faster. So although you want to operate at a high standard, the best CEOs know, get the shit done, get it going. There's always time to fix it in post, right? So again, it's just about finding that right balance. And then again, when it keeps you out of action, doubting your capacity, and alone and isolated, that's when the problems step in.
There's a big difference between waiting for the right time and preparing for the right time. The Gutsy Collective is for the women that are ready to prepare. This is a coaching-based community where women come to build their confidence, stack their skills, and to prepare for making their next bold move. They're learning how to trust themselves again to make decisions that align with what they actually want. They're learning how to feel comfortable putting their own needs first, and they're getting things in order so that when it's time to make that move, they're ready. If you have felt pulled towards a change or shift in your life or career and you're just not sure where to go to get started, the Gutsy Collective is your right next move. And guess what? Your first 30 days, it's on the house. Go to lauraora.com/gutsy collective, or you can just scroll down and click on the link in the show notes to sign up today. Yeah, yeah. There's a framework, the iconic framework, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken,
yes, yes, yes.
which is this how we're working with and through imposter complex? Walk us through what that is and
Yeah.
how we utilize it.
So, okay, so I'm going to take one step back for a hot second and just say because, so yes, imposter complex, yes, 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 that it is a real, real, real thing. What I have noticed over the last couple of years is once again, though, the way the conversation about imposter complex has become weaponized. Um, and I've literally seen it myself as a keynote speaker when an organization wants to bring me in to basically say like, we got to get our people to bring their best ideas forward. I don't know why they're not bringing their best ideas forward. And then I'll say, and like, oh, imposter syndrome. And I'll say, okay, so how does leadership actually support people when they bring their unconventional status quo busting ideas forth?
Yep.
And then I don't often hear back from them. Shocking. So I worked with a group of women in venture capital. I was down at a lovely event last May in Sonoma. All my gigs to be there going forward. Let's just put that in the universe. And it was a group of women in venture who are, like just badass, just kind of crushing it. And the imposter language just wasn't resonant. And I understood why, because they had spent so much of their lives being told any sense of insecurity was a them problem. And so that's really how we've talked about this, right? This is a thing for you to deal with. We got to fix this in you. No, it is a context to a much greater system. Now, I can say that until I'm blue in the face, but as long as we're talking about imposter complex, I'm gonna have this like this is the uphill battle. So I decided right then and there to change all of my slides and start talking about the trailblazer complex
Mm,
because that's more accurate, right? Once we recognize that you are, as a trailblazer, you are first out of the gate. You are doing something that has not been seen or done before by somebody who looks like you. Nobody in your family has done this before. You haven't done this before, right? Your ideas maybe have been misunderstood. People called you all sorts of, ableist things about your mental health because, like, why would you want to do this? That's different. That feels different. It's the same experience. I will still say it's going to keep you out of action, dead in your capacity, alone and isolated. You're still going to probably navigate it the same way. Your perfectionism is going to get in there. But when you think about, God, I just haven't done this before, it just dials it back. Do I still want to go ahead and blaze this trail? If the answer is yeah, then this is just part of the gig, you know?
yeah.
So that has sort of shifted things significantly. Again, I'm still talking about imposter complex, but I just think that this is the next evolution of the conversation. And it's the one where we don't pathologize folks for having this experience, where we say this is just actually a natural part of being gutsy. You
Mm,
know, you're trailblazing because the trail wasn't there, and now it is, right?
yeah.
Um, Now there's a whole lot more I can say about this, but back to the framework, the Trailblazer complex really, like I said, it means that you're first out of the gate, that you're just at the precipice of a new expansion. You haven't done this before, you haven't been here before. There's some misunderstood brilliance, and this is where it points you to this iconic path. Okay, so yes, this is the framework. This is the method that I've honed over a bajillion years. It seems like now. Interestingly, because I do like a good wordplay, iconic is a great reminder because you can't spell iconic without IC twice, right?
Yeah.
Come on, that's pretty good.
Very nice. Very
Imposter complex, like at the beginning of your like trailblazing excursion, and at the end, you're gonna feel this like this quality of imposter complex. So it's just a helpful reminder that this is again part of the gig. You're doing something iconic, you're gonna have this experience. But it is also an acronym. How are we doing? We doing okay?
We're great. I'm with you.
Okay. I is for identity. And so this is how you see yourself, right? So are you talking about yourself as a procrastinator? Are you talking about yourself as a beginner? Are you talking about yourself as a CEO? Are you talking about yourself as a sage? Like, how do you see yourself? And if you can't see yourself as the person capable of doing the thing, seeing yourself on that stage, you know, what are we doing? Yeah. So it really starts with how you see yourself. So, yes, of course, there's some mindset stuff, but it's just this being able to envision where it is you want to be and being that person who has, in my former works, I would call it stepping into your starring role. Can you actually see that? And I know most people listening are like, yeah, live, breathe, sleep it. Like, I see it. C is for confronting the critics. So this is where we really look at what's in the way. Yeah. So I said if it wants to keep you out of action, doubting your capacity and alone and isolated, this is the keeping you out of action part. What's actually in the way? Is this a person who is an actual critic of your actions, literally stopping you? Is this an inner critic that is telling you that you're not smart enough, capable enough? Or are there some realistic objections, some gaps that need to be filled? So, what's actually in the way is where we confront the critics. Yeah.
Yep.
O is for optimize. This is really rooting into proof positive about all that you have already done and been and delivered and sold, so that you will remind yourself of all of the times you have been at this very precipice of your expansion, jumped, and discovered the party was on the other side of that resistance. So you might not have done this before, but you've done many other things at many other times and many other stages when you didn't feel like you were capable of it. Tilde here. This is a lot trickier than we realize, in part because we don't celebrate, because we
Mm.
don't lock it in. I had a session today with an absolute maven in the operations space. And she had just pulled off this extraordinary feat, like this massive event with a bajillion stakeholders. And I mean, the logistics upon logistics. And she was just like so quickly on to the next. And I was like, "Ah, pull back, pull back." Um, and we had like I made her do like a forensic on all of the decisions that she had to make because when we'd spoken 6 months ago there was no universe in which she thought she'd be capable of pulling off anything even remotely like what she had just pulled off, right? But that celebration is vital to being able to actually optimize our previous wins. This is about rooting into proof positive about what's already here. So this is about looking at what you've already done. This is about looking at tracking your wins on an ongoing basis. And this is about actually gathering the external evidence as well. So for people pleasers like me, it can be really hard. When somebody sends me a lovely testimonial or something, it's actually hard for me to receive it at first because they're just being nice, right?
Mm. Yeah.
But if I've done my internal work and I remind myself on a cellular level what a badass I am, when I get those, thank you for the life-changing, whatever it is, but I'm going to be able to receive it because I've done the internal work. So you really have to do that internal work before you can start receiving the external. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as for network, none of us were supposed to do any of this alone, right? Gather your people, make sure you're surrounded by the best, the brightest, including people who you can receive their conscious critique, right? It's not just about a bunch of yay sayers. So make sure that you are gathering the best. Make sure you are asking for and receiving their support. Not everybody wants you to succeed, but I promise you, your people do. But you might need to ask them for help. I is for implement, which is quite simply just do the damn work. Do the work, 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 right? Like there's just like there's no bypassing the work, which is great because you love this work. Otherwise, you wouldn't be experiencing imposter complex or trailblazer complex because you are willing to be in it for the long haul. So do the work. And then C is for celebrate. And again, that comes back around to O. optimized, because if we are not celebrating, if we are not rooting into what we have done, then we are going to be on to the next. The ego wants to want more than it wants to get. So we're always on to the next before we've had a chance to really root in. Um, so yeah, do you do yoga?
I don't.
Have you?
I I've dabbled.
Okay, so you
I'm
don't
not
give a
I've
shit about corpse pose, but anybody who's
I
paying
don't know
attention,
anything.
right?
I don't know anything
Yeah.
about
So
that.
it's the final pose. And so you're like get through like 48 minutes of just this like back-breaking pretzel-y wheel stuff, and then they want you to lie down for like 10 minutes, and you're like, I got shit to do. I gotta get in the shower before anybody else does. And you're supposed to just lie there. And every yoga instructor will likely tell you it's the most important pose. And you're like, no, no, it's not. No, it's not. But it is. It really is the integration, the reminder on a cellular level that this is good. You've done good. You're allowing yourself to receive it. That's what celebration fundamentally is.
That's awesome. I corpse pose. You're literally just laying on your back.
Yep.
You're just chilling
Yep.
and receiving. I
Chilling and
like
receiving.
I love the idea of the integration period. And I hear a lot and see a lot of people say celebrate your wins, acknowledge what you've done. I don't know that everyone knows what celebrating a win looks like.
Hmm.
What are some ways that you recommend people celebrate their wins?
I love that. That is such a great question. That is such a great question. Because I think part of the problem is we make it something that it's not, right? It's not the champagne and the chocolate cake and the streamers and this. It's a moment of I made some good decisions today.
Hmm.
Yeah, I could have done this, but I did this. I zigged when I could have zagged. It's a breath. It's a pause. Sometimes it's a fabulous dinner. Sometimes it's a new bag, she said to herself. And sometimes it's really just God damn, that was good.
That was good.
And so I highly recommend shooting for 5 a day. Just aim for 5 a day. Aim for five. Just like, what are 5 good decisions you made? What are 5 things that you felt good that you made happen? Now, one of the things that we can do is we can tend to confuse gratitude with celebration. Big fan of gratitude too. Where gratitude feels to me like, an appreciation of what is. Celebration is an appreciation of what I did.
Hmm.
And that is the reminder that conditions us for when we are at that next precipice of our expansion, right?
Hell yes.
I do make good decisions. Why do I know that? Because that was the thing I was celebrating the last 5 days. Maybe I make some good decisions. Maybe I don't have to tell myself I don't make good decisions anymore, right? Or I don't have to tell myself I don't make good decisions. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's just this like it can be just very subtle. Now, if that doesn't work, you gotta find your way. All this work is about finding what works for you. But for me, honestly, I track my wins over the course of the day. Listen, I've not been feeling well. I got to the gym. So I got to the gym this morning, and that set me up for the best day that I've had in about 10 days when I haven't been working out. I had a fire coaching call that I just know we just shifted everything. I'm going to be celebrating this, right? I showed up absolutely present, and gave everything that I had. I'm going to celebrate that. So that's 3 that are right off the top of my head, and we're nowhere near done the day. So
Yeah.
it's just for me, it's that. When I get my book deal, that's going to be a different kind of celebration,
I mean, absolutely it is.
But it doesn't have to mean champagne and sparklers and trips away. I also want to do that. But so it's just about being present to what you've made happen.
Yeah. Thank you for going through that. I've never asked anybody that question before, and I think it's so important to acknowledge, like, to your point, like we assume celebration with one thing
Yeah,
or a group of things, and it's really the acknowledgement.
it's the
It's
acknowledgement.
being in corpse pose for a second. And
It's being in pause. Honestly, I say
yeah,
rest and celebration like that. And then I also do talk a little bit about in one of my bodies of work about your brand of celebration, right? So like what works for me isn't going to work for you. So I think it's a great effort to think about what are some of the things that do feel celebratory to me personally, you know? So I think it's a worthy exploration. How do I want to market when I, finally do that thing that I've said that I've wanted to do for a really long time, and just then you can start to imagine what that feels like too. But yeah, again, we're not looking for more to-dos. We're not looking to add more to your plate. But today our set of boundary is most definitely worthy of celebration.
for
Answer.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How about in the moment?
Mm,
Okay. I'm about to do something. I'm right on the edge. I can feel that nudge, that pull, but that complex is popping in. Those
mm.
those those things are starting to stop me. What do you recommend doing in the moment to overcome that and or to take the action that you know it's time to make?
So first things first, take a breath, and remember why you're doing this, right? Oftentimes, again, oftentimes I speak with speakers, and they're nervous about taking the stage or whatever it is, and they're worried about their voice shaking, or metaphorically and also not. And then I say it's actually okay to say I'm nervous to be doing this and excited because it matters.
Hmm.
So take a breath, remember that you're only doing this because it matters, right? You will only experience this with something that is important to you. I told you I do yoga. I'm not very good. I have no imposter complex when it comes to yoga. I have no imposter complex when it comes to surfing or painting or anything like that. But my parenting, my teaching, my speaking, my coaching, my writing, hell's bells, that's where it's going to show up, because those are the things that are the most important to me. So it's a reminder that what you're doing matters to you, and it wants attention, and it wants to be held as sacred. So this matters. And I also want you to remember that you're only experiencing this because you have beautiful, strong values of integrity, excellence, and mastery. Okay. So if you didn't have those beautiful values, you wouldn't be experiencing this either. So there's a way in which I don't think it's a bad thing. I think the way we've pathologized it, I think the way it can get in our way, those are problems. But for the most part, it's showing up to show you who you are and what does matter most to you. So, I'm not alone in this experience. Many, many other brilliant people experience it. Most people who have strong values of excellence, integrity, and mastery experience it. And it's only here because of what I'm about to do matters. How lucky am I?
Hmm. I love your reframe on imposter complex. I
Thanks.
really do. These are avenues that have, to my knowledge, not been vocalized, not in the worlds and in the circles that I've been a part of. And I just love this reframe of, if it didn't matter, it wouldn't matter. Like that's just I'm gonna remember that forever, truly, because it's like things only show up like that when something's at stake, when you are so deeply rooted in it, when your passion is running faster than any body of water ever possibly could.
Woo! That's a
that
word.
that's the fucking good stuff, my friend. Ugh. I love it. I've got to ask you before we wrap up today, because
Yeah.
I feel like this is just so important, and it's something that you shared with me, your mother's lifelong mantra, which is
Hmm.
don't postpone joy. And I just felt like she wanted to make sure that we talked about that today and we shared this, because outside of all of this stuff and the words and the phrases and the identities and all this, friends, we've just got to fucking remember that life is joy. Can you talk to us a little bit about your mom's mantra?
Woo! You're not wrong. She definitely wanted to make an appearance today. My sister and I are in conversation about getting that actually as matching tattoos.
It's amazing.
My mom passed at 59, and it's pretty young.
Yeah.
And she died my daughter was 8 months old when she died. And
Wow.
that was a very like, life is short and fucking sacred. And that had been her mantra. And, I mean, I was a busy executive. She used to call me. She used to call me, and I'd be like doing these pitches. My former life, I was in advertising, and Rita, our receptionist, knew that when my mom called, she could get through to me no matter what, where, what, like whatever was happening. My mom got through to me. And I will never forget this one time I was pitching. Is it Merck Frost? I can't remember. I can't remember the company now, but I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly what I was wearing. And I picked up the phone. Mom, what's up? Tanya, I just saw the most incredible butterfly,
Hmm.
and it just made me think of you. And I'm sipping my coffee, and the sun is up, and I just think, is there anything better than this? And I was like, Mom, for fuck's sake, like, dude, it's like really important. And still, it was like, there is this beauty that is happening in this precise moment, and there is joy here. And actually, none of this really matters,
Yeah.
except for the parts that do. So I actually have another body of work called Brand of Joy, which is about understanding what is important to you, so when I said I get to be present on this call, what I actually want is to feel joy with you, with
Yeah.
you, Laura. And that means I understand my joy as feeling deeply connected, which I do, feeling really grateful to get to do this work and to be in conversation with you and to feel generous with what I know. That's my holy trinity of what I experience as joy. So, Mom and her butterflies and her fabulous coffee and her delight and love of luxuries and pleasures, it made an imprint on me, and I wish I had so much more of her. So that has
Hmm.
been my desire to understand my joy, help other people understand theirs, and go fucking get it because life is short.
Yeah. Well, I gotta tell you, she is consistently giving you those little calls. It's showing up in a different way. But those moments when you're catching those little glimmers in life, that is 1,000% her. So, and I feel like that tattoo might need a butterfly with it. I'm just saying.
Oh, girl.
Just saying.
Hey.
Yeah,
I think you're onto something.
you
Yeah.
got it. Tanya, you are just an incredible human being, a ball full of energy. I want to make sure everyone knows where to find and connect with you. So, what's the best place to get you?
I'm everywhere, Tanya Geisler. I do think that if you're curious about this golden shadow, this iconic identity, just go take the quiz, tanyageisler.com/quiz. Easy, easy, easy. I don't even think you need to opt in for it. Um, and it's just really helpful. But yeah, Tanya Geisler, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, yeah. But then you'll have my site as well. So
Perfect. What does gutsy mean to you, my friend?
gutsy means being a trailblazer. Gutsy means doing the thing in spite of the naysayers, in spite of the fact that you haven't done it before, in spite of the fact that nobody who looks like you has done it before, but in your way, in your aligned way.
I told you this was going to be one of those episodes where you're going to listen to it the whole way through. You're going to hear a few things that maybe hurt your ass for a second, but then light you up in the best of ways. And I can almost guarantee you that you already want to go back and listen to it again. And I highly recommend that you do that. You are not here to play small, to hide, abide by the world's rules of life. You're bumping up against this or you're sensing this because you have a bigger purpose. You are here to do something incredible, and we can't let this shit stop you anymore. So I would be super curious which of the 12 lies resonated most with you. There might be a few in there, but which one resonated the most with you? Come find me and tell me in the DMs on my social media accounts. I am at that Laura Ora. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.